Imagine Jesus declaring he came not for peace, but to divide families. Father against son, mother against daughter. Words that challenge our deepest loyalties and raise the question, just when does faith demand separation from those we love the most? That's what we're going to talk about today. The Bible presents a tug of war between honoring family ties and prioritizing obedience to God. We see it in the commands to honor your father and your mother. And then there's warnings to guard against harmful influences. But how do you do that if the one that you should honor is actually the one causing you the harm? This creates what's known as cognitive dissonance. Verses like Matthew 10:34 through 37 and Luke 12:51 through 53 show Jesus foretelling about family breakups over faith in him and his word. This suggests that separation may align with biblical principles, especially in cases of abuse, toxicity, or spiritual peril. However, Christian values also emphasize boundaries over outright abandonment, balancing love with self-protection through scriptures like 1 Corinthians 5:11 and Proverbs 22:24 through 25. We will discuss 3 God-approved reasons to separate from your family. Genesis chapter 12, 1 and 2 says, "The Lord said to Abram, 'Go, leave your people and all that you are familiar with.'" But where is he going? Wherever God takes him. It's an assignment. God's plan usually includes 2 key elements, and that's an assignment and a promise. Rarely will you read about a promise that does not include an act of obedience before you can receive the promise. Even the promise of salvation says in the book of Romans, chapter 10, verse 9, "If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved." So far, we have Abram obeying God to leave the majority of his family behind. It's easier to leave people when you don't really like them that much, isn't it? It's a lot harder to leave people when they've done nothing to you. And still, Abram has to leave them behind. He couldn't receive the promise to make him a great nation unless he put the work in. Rule breaker. Why you say work? Well, because how many of you know that moving is a full-time job, especially when you have as many possessions as Abram did? Leaving home is work, but we must go build our own lives. It's out there where we learn independence and responsibility. Being under the protection and the comfort of family is a good feeling. However, it can prevent us from growing and reaching our full capacity or potential, just like it did with Abram. Therefore, the first reason to separate is to complete a God-ordained assignment. And the second reason, well, that's to grow spiritually. In Genesis chapter 13, we learn that Abram and his nephew Lot, the only one allowed to go with Abram, were so blessed that they became irritated with each other, especially since there were Canaanites and Perizzites dwelling in the land too. Verse 8 says, "Abram told Lot, 'Let there be no strife between you and me, and between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, for we are kinsmen.'" Now, how many people know that sometimes you have to separate in order to stay together? Yes, you can get along better with people you don't have to live with or see every day. It's not that you don't love them, it's that you know the relationship could be much stronger or have a better chance of surviving if you separate. So, the number three reason to separate from family members is going to be so that the relationship can survive. And that's exactly what Abram and Lot did in verse 11. But hold on. We can't just ignore the fact that God made it possible for Abram to grow as soon as he took his first step of obedience. But he didn't outgrow his initial blessing and receive the full extent of the promise until after he separated from Lot. Yeah, Lot had to go. Look at verse 14. It says, "The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward, for all the land that you see, so I will give to you and to your offspring forever. I will make your offspring as the dust of the earth, so that if one can count the dust of the earth, your offspring also can be counted." You know, we hold on to people, places, and things for multiple reasons, but most often it's because of one thing: we think we need them, not knowing that sometimes it's in the letting go of those same people, places, and things that makes room for the promises of God. I pray we hear the voice of God clearly to know what to keep and what to let go. Then we are not only blessed, but that's the formula for being authentically blessed. That's all I have for today. And I hope this has helped someone. And I pray you have a wonderful day, evening, night, whenever you are watching this. I know I will. Don't you be no ghosts, truth seekers, barkeepers. Let's continue to do just that. And until next time, I love you with the love of Christ. Rule breaker out.